Guys, we're back with the OG today. We're going to be doing something that a lot of you have actually asked me about. Wondered if I had ever done it and what kind of results I got. I'm honestly curious to do it with the plans that I have for the car in the future and the things that we're about to start finally getting done. I kind of wanted to do this just to see so that I could plan a little better and why not make a video out of it? So today we are actually going to be compression testing the PT-GT and maybe compression testing the Daily Cruiser, because why not? I'm actually kind of curious because that car does lose a little oil and I don't know where it could be leaking it from. Kind of doubtful, but you know, it might be kind of fun to see since I got the new gauge, which I'll show you in just a minute. Also, in this episode, hopefully we'll be starting this car for the first time. I went to start it earlier and the battery, of course, was discharged. This car has been sitting in here for quite a while, so I went ahead and plugged it in. It's under the back seat in these cars, in case you guys didn't know that. Kind of a random Cadillac-y thing that these cars have. And the tractor got a flat tire too, so that's just chilling there. But without further ado, I think actually I forgot the key to the PT-GT is in the house, so I have to walk all the way back in there and get the key just so I can start this thing up. But we're gonna go ahead, get a cold start on this thing because it's been a couple days, and go ahead and pull it in the shop and get started on this test. The Daily Cruiser's exhaust is fun and all, but this car, nothing beats the sound of the SRT4, man. So here's our nice little compressor testing kit that I got. It is a Pittsburgh automotive brand, which if you guys know tools, you know that that is a Harbor Freight brand. So of course I got this at Harbor Freight. It's like my favorite place to buy stuff like this. It's the best for buying stuff that's inexpensive. It's got this little quick disconnect fitting, and it's got these 3 spark plug adapters. So I'm assuming we'll put these down in and get them as tight as we can by hand up here. I'm assuming that will be enough because it does have a big O-ring fitting. Spark plug goes pretty deep down in there, but these will reach down in no problem and connect up to our tool and should work great. I'm not sure how accurate this is, but from everything I've been seeing online, we should see around 150 pounds. From the test, it might vary some, and I'm going to double check in the factory service manual that I have on my computer before we make a final diagnosis of anything. But I'm hoping to see around 150. That seems to be pretty standard for an SRT4. This one has a lot of miles on it, so that's what I'm very curious to see. And out comes plug number 1. It looks like we're actually going to be using the biggest adapter for these. Alright, I think I got it threaded in decently. I'm going to go ahead and set our gauge like right there or something. Hopefully I can see that inside the car. Also went ahead and pulled the fuel pump relay, which is that one right there. So when I get in here and turn the key, I should hear no fuel pump. No fuel pump. Oh God. Definitely need that jumper on it though. $120 PSI, which is probably a little low. I think it could be worse. I'd say considering how many miles this engine has on it, I'm not really super surprised. And out comes plug number 2. In goes our tester adapter. I think it's on there good. Fingers crossed for test number 2. 120, like exactly the same 4-cylinder number 2. That's really, really good sign. All right, pressure testers on number 3. We got 120 again, baby. Well, technically, I think 119. All right, last but not least, cylinder 4. It's our last one. Come on, hold out for me. And we got actually slightly better than 120. It's like 121. So we are consistent at 120 all across the board according to this gauge. That is some huge news. Some crazy news too, because this motor has been driven for the last, God only knows how many miles. Literally, God only knows how many miles. And I cannot remember how this gauge goes in here. So I'm gonna figure that out later. But all my plans, I've had a lot of different plans for this car and trying to decide what I was going to do. I'm gonna talk about that in just a minute. First of all, let me go ahead and button everything back up, get our relay in, and get this thing started up and get it charging. And this is for those of you who keep picking on me about not putting my bumper back on. I'm gonna explain why I've been waiting in a minute. Just hold on to your horses. Leave me alone. There. It's back on. Kind of. Not really back on, actually, at all. Now you can relax, okay? So we got a little check engine light going on here. I went ahead and gave things a check here with the Autel Maxi Link, and I got a P0108, which is map sensor. I did have the map sensor unplugged while we were doing the test so that I could have more room and get down in at the one spark plug, so that's probably why that's there. But I also got a pending for TCS. It's a super generic P0700, but when I went back here and went to AT to read the codes, it says system voltage low, P0562, which would be, that says alternator or drive belt is loose or missing, faulty alternator, faulty battery, open or short in the system voltage circuit. So I'm wondering if it's just because my battery was really low and that was causing some weird stuff to happen there. Long story short, I think I just need to get a dang new battery. Oh, that was a double. Oh, hell no. Hell no. That was gas that was coming out. I could smell it. Holy shit, that's a huge puddle of gas. Why is there gas coming out everywhere? Did a gas line get punctured when we were doing everything? Pretty sure I have all the power shut off in here. I'm honestly scared to even go in here. I smelled a little bit of fuel. I thought maybe one of the O-rings had gotten damaged or something on one of the injectors. I was kind of looking around there, and all of a sudden I decided to look under the car, and there's just something pouring. It's gas. Dude, that's so scary. All the power is completely off. I am evacuating this area right now.
2,000 years later.
A few hours later, we got our mess cleaned up a little bit, and I also went and tried to find a fire extinguisher of some sort local, but nobody had anything, so I already got one on order. I'm gonna go ahead and get one. But that really was an eye-opener that, like, jeepers, it could be that easy for this place to blow up. So we don't want that to happen ever again. Got the mess cleaned up. I let most of the gas evaporate and used a bunch of kitty litter to clean everything out, and we're good to go now. I don't know what happened with the fuel lines. This is the main fuel line right here that goes to the fuel rail. The only thing I could figure is it's a little rusty up here under the car, and when we moved the fuel rail out of the way, it was just enough that it pulled on it and made it break loose. And obviously when I started the car, the fuel pressure made it go everywhere. Got the electricity back on now, and I'm waiting for this to charge a little more because I am going to attempt a second quick little compression test, even though I don't need to. I actually found a section about doing compression tests in the factory service manual that I have downloaded on my computer. I use that manual all the time now that I found it. I found the section on doing compression tests, and they said that you should never see a reading below 100 psi in the 2.4 liter, and it shouldn't vary more than 25% per cylinder. If it does, then you definitely have some issues that need to be addressed. That's according to the OEM service manual again. So we are within range and our numbers look good, but the manual actually explained the process of doing a compression test a little bit better. It said that the car should be pretty warmed up. You want to warm the car up first. It also said the throttle body plate should be open, so basically you need to press the gas down, and that makes sense. I didn't think of that before. But overall, the main thing is that it's within range and that it's consistent, and that's what we saw just from doing that really quick, and that's probably accurate enough. So now it's time to go ahead and do the test here on the daily cruiser. I'm very curious to give it a shot on that. So we're gonna go ahead and go for a little spin. Probably not get it completely warmed up, but check out them LEDs though. Woo! Hey guys, I just want to make a quick editor's note. I know there's a lot of debate across the internet about counting the number of cranks when you're trying to do a compression test similar to this. I did not think about it at all when I did the first test on the GT. I thought from the beginning that it was just about waiting until it reached the maximum pressure, and then that was your number. But some places online will tell you to only crank the motor like 4, 5, 6 times for each cylinder and count those cranks and go by that for your number because it's like more consistent, or it might show more accurately the wear on the rings, or I don't know. There's a lot of debate about it, but I looked in the manual and it actually says crank the engine until max pressure is reached on the gauge. So after confirming that in the service manual, I continued to do that, although I did try to keep a count of the cranks to make sure they reached full compression at a similar number, and they all seem to. So depending on how I end up cutting up the clips to make them look good for you guys, they might not accurately show that. So I just want to make a quick note for you guys that wondered, because everybody does seem to have a little bit of a different opinion on that. Alright, we went ahead and got her warmed up a little bit for this test. Alright, we got plug number 1, and already running into trouble. This car obviously has the plastic intake manifold. I thought it was not that much different in size from the other one, but there's no room to get to cylinder 2 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and yank this intake manifold off really quick because it's really easy to do.
A few moments.
Alright, and that easy. We got our manifold out of the way. Probably took like 5 or 10 minutes, but everything is still warm enough. And out comes plug number 2. Here goes number 3. And number 4. I went ahead and pulled one of the ASD fuses. This car does not have an actual fuel pump relay like the first generation does, because I was able to just pull the relay and get no fuel going in so that we don't flood anything or have gas shoot anywhere. So I went ahead and pulled that. I don't know if the car is even going to crank with that out though. I did hear the fuel pump prime. There was actually 4 different ASD fuses on this car, and I don't know anything about them, but I pulled them all individually and turned the key, and the pump still primed every time. So you know what? We're just gonna send it. It's actually right about 130 psi, right on the dot. So far so good with that one. Alright, this is actually a little bit lower. We're at 120. Actually slightly less than 120, which I mean isn't bad. Right down around 120 psi on that cylinder as well. A little quick math shows that that's maybe like a 7 or 8% difference between cylinders 1 and 2. And 3 and 4, not really a big deal, but she isn't a spring chicken. Alright, got everything buttoned up. And we're done there.
Tomorrow.
So guys, I think it's time for a PTGT update. That camera angle isn't good. There we go. Okay, that's a little better. So I've talked about my plans for this car. I've talked about a lot of different things, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different things I wanted to do with this car. I made a video, I forgot when it was, but it was when I had decided to put this car away for the winter once I got the daily cruiser. I talked about how I wanted to do a whole new suspension. I wanted to maybe swap out turbos, do a bigger turbo, redo all of that, do something really big with this car and really make more power and really change up the look of it, make it the car that I always kind of wanted it to be and the build that I always wanted to do with it. Not a whole lot of it has happened yet. This winter has been crazy with me trying to get a dealer's license and buying Project Flip Cruiser. Now I'm searching for Project Flip Cruiser 2.0, I guess I'll call it. And then the daily cruiser, we've been working on that on and off, getting a bunch of stuff done with that. This winter was awful. The weather sucked, so we had some really cold times where I could barely even come out here. We also had the DTS blow up a few weeks ago, and that's been taking up a lot of my time, and now it's still refusing to work like it should, and now it's leaking gas everywhere, so I have to figure that out. But a lot of stuff has slowed it down, and we haven't really done a ton with this car. But now the weather is better, and now probably within the next month or so, a lot of the events, the car meets and stuff like that are going to start up in this area. So it needs to get started, and we are going to be getting started on some of the major things that I want to do to this car now. So originally I wanted to make more power. I wanted to do something like a different turbo and stuff, and I would like to in the future, but honestly for the power levels I want to make right now, and considering that I did decide to keep the stock transmission for this season because a built 4041 TE trans, it's super rare to find one. There's not even very many parts around for a built one from what I've heard, and they're really expensive. So a built 4041 TE is definitely not going to be able to happen for this season. And with that, obviously I'm not going to be making like 450 wheel horsepower with this trans because it will blow up. I might be able to make 3 to the wheels. That I'd like to make close to that. That would be a really fun range. It shifts fine, so I have no doubts that it will last through a season making some more power. But honestly, the stock turbo, I think it's like a 34 millimeter intake housing. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not a bad size turbo. It spools just fine for what I do, and I think that there's more than enough potential there to make that kind of power with the right supporting mods that we are going to end up doing. So I decided to go ahead and keep the stock turbo. As far as like the cams and stuff are concerned, I think it wouldn't really be worth it to swap out cams and things like that unless you just went with a whole built head, which we may do in the future when we have a different trans. For now, for this season, as much as I would like to do all this, I really don't think it would be practical. I don't think it would be a good thing to do, considering that I want to reliably drive this car all summer, maybe even go on a few road trips and do some cool stuff like that. With that being said, the main thing is I want this car to be reliable, and I want to go through a lot of stuff and button everything up mechanically that has always bugged me and take care of every little issue, get this car at 100% and make some more power. So as far as building the motor in this car is concerned, I don't think we're going to be doing very much with that for this season. We still have a lot to do, but we're not going to be making a ton of power. We're not going to be turbo swapping or like head swapping or anything. It just wouldn't be practical without figuring out what we're going to do, whether we end up 5-speed swapping it, which would be completely impractical, but it would be so fun and one heck of a learning experience, or whether we find a built trans or whatever. That's all in the future. It's not even worth talking about right now. The main thing is we need to make sure this thing is reliable and buttoned up mechanically. I want to do like a race timing belt and redo all that down on there, make sure that is 100%, and replace a bunch of little stuff that needs to get done. Now my plan was up till recently to still drop this whole powertrain out of the car and spend a couple weeks, you know, getting everything cleaned up, cleaning out the whole engine bay, doing anything to the motor that needed to be done, like the timing set, you know, all that stuff. Do everything while the powertrain's out because there's not a ton of room in there, and then go ahead and put everything back in, because it's not honestly too hard to drop the powertrain off. I've watched multiple videos on it, and it would probably take a couple days to get everything dropped out and at least a couple days to get everything back in, and we probably have it out for 2 or 3 weeks getting everything buttoned up. So I've been debating that, but at this point I'm starting to have second thoughts even about that. We might not even have to. It is so windy out, oh my god. But my main concern is right here on the side of the turbo. A lot of you guys have asked me if I have some sort of blow-off valve on this car, or like a Mopar blow-off valve plate, one of those sandwich plates on the car or something, because you can hear the turbo really well and it makes a really loud blow-off noise. The only thing that I've upgraded is the intake, and that's all it took to make this turbo really speak up, and you can hear blow-off noises, you can hear spool noises, and that's why I say this intake was the best investment. In case you guys didn't know, the blow-off plate goes right there. It sandwiches between those two things right there. I bought one a long time ago, and when I went to install it, I realized that the bolt right there, I'll try to point an arrow to it or something, but the one bolt head is actually completely broken off. I don't know how it got broken off. I don't know what happened, but it's just gone, and you can see there's actually black residue around that. So I don't know if that's causing some sort of boost leak or God only knows what. It doesn't seem to be, but my camera was way too zoomed in. It could be causing performance issues. It could in the future. It could just get really bad in the future. I don't know. In order to get that like tapped and drilled out and fixed, the turbo really should not be in the car. There's not room to properly drill that out, get that machine tapped and everything. And I'd really like to just take it to somebody to get it done. Apparently it is possible to remove the whole turbo manifold assembly with the motor in the car. But that's really my main thing, is I don't know what to do with that. If I drop the whole powertrain out, I could easily pull that all apart. We could get that fixed. We could replace any springs, any wastegate stuff, do any upgrades that we need to there for when we get this thing tuned, depending on who tunes it and what they recommend. We could do that all while it's out of the car and do a bunch of stuff like the timing. And I'm on the fence still as to whether I should even try. I haven't looked through the factory service manual and really read through a section about turbo removal and, you know, looked for videos on it, but I have a feeling it's gonna suck. Hopefully by the time this video is out, I will have already started on whatever I decided to do. I'm just a kid that works on cars, and I'm so thankful you guys happen to enjoy watching it enough to come back, because it allows me to continue to learn and to do awesome stuff and to make dreams come true here, honestly, and to make better videos for you guys. That's really my main focus right now. I just want better video quality for you guys. I want more exciting content, and that's what we're going to work my butt off in 2020 to deliver. So bear with me, guys, and that's the plan for the GT. And that's also a reason why I did this compression test. I've wanted to do it for a while, and I felt like it would be a fun little video, but it would also be an opportunity to give you guys an update. And I knew that this motor couldn't be too bad, pretty good health, but I was just curious to see the compression numbers. If by chance we had a cylinder that was not looking so good, then I would have a very good excuse to drop the powertrain out. But the point is, whether that happens with this car or not, whether we, take a bunch of stuff apart and make that kind of content with this car or not, we will be making it in the future, because something I really want to learn next is like about motors and assembling motors, and I want to learn more about that kind of stuff. So no matter what, in the future we are going to have a project car, and we will be doing some fun stuff like that with it. You guys are gonna have to wait and see what we end up doing as far as maybe different wheels, maybe some other body related stuff, but that's staying a secret. Guys, we're so close to 10,000 subscribers, though. We're getting there quickly, and I want to just thank you so much for the support. When we hit 10,000 subscribers, I'll be taking everything to the next level. When we hit 10K, I'm waiting to hit that goal. So hit the subscribe button right now. Follow us on social media, and just stay freaking tuned, because it's gonna get awesome. And when we hit 10K, we got some seriously exciting stuff coming. Alright, so we out here under the DTS. I've been under here for a little bit, trying to figure out exactly what is going on and why we are leaking so much gas, where it's coming from. But coming back here under the motor, you see these are the fuel lines right here that run to the back of the car. Right here, I can already smell a little bit of gas right here. I know it must have been leaking out here. Basically, that line is completely rotted out, and that has to be exploded up in there somewhere. These cars have all steel lines, all steel brake lines, all steel fuel lines. I actually had to replace one brake line. You guys might remember that from a long time ago, but I don't know. We're gonna have to figure all that out, and I'll update you guys in a future video on that. Also, your boy forgot to take the key out of the ignition last night and left it in the run position overnight. Completely killed the battery in the daily cruiser. That was really stupid. So I got it plugged into a charger right now. It'll be charged up soon, but ooh, it's so windy. Hey, we got it. Let's go. Really hoping that today would be more productive, that I can get more done and I can film some more stuff, but so incredibly windy out. We actually have like a high wind warning or whatever, and it's actually like, it's pushing me around as I'm driving down the road right now. It's crazy. And that makes it really hard to film stuff that's not like in the shop with the door shut. So again, guys, thank you so incredibly much for the support, and thank you so much for watching this quick little channel CG video. You rock. God bless you guys, and I will see you in the next one. And I promise the next time I see you, that roof rack will be permanently fixed, because that is driving me crazy.